Hey guys, my name is Jamie, and in this video I'm going to be comparing Mac and Windows for programmers and just kind of comparing them on several different categories and seeing which one might be better if you're a programmer. So first let's take a look at the hardware and see what we're dealing with here. So I've just pulled up two laptops here. The first one is a Samsung Notebook 7. It's $750 and it has an Intel Core i5, 8 gigabytes of RAM, 256 gigabytes of solid state drive. Yeah, it's pretty cheap for a laptop with these kind of specs. And then the corresponding Apple computer is going to be over here, and its price is around $500 more, with exactly the same specs, the same size of the screen and so forth. However, this one is going to be a little bit lighter. I looked up the weight of this. It's 2.8 pounds, and then the weight of the Windows computer is 3.2 pounds, so it's kind of a little bit heavier, a little bit bulkier. Also, this Windows computer is a touchscreen, so if you're into that sort of thing, then that's kind of an advantage. If you're wondering like why there's a huge price difference, it's mostly because of the software and the design. There's a lot of work that goes into designing the Mac to make sure that it looks this good and it runs this well. And there's also a bunch of pre-installed software on there as well. And also for programmers specifically, the Mac comes pre-installed with a bash terminal. So it has a Unix terminal inside of it where you can run commands like ls and pwd. But the Windows computer, it doesn't have that. You need to install something called git bash. So there is a way to get a Unix-like terminal on the Windows computer, but it's going to be a little bit janky, like not everything's going to work properly. You can use the Windows command prompt, but the Unix terminal is a lot more universally accepted by programmers. So going back over here to the picture, I'm just going to write down for the hardware category, we have the price over here in the Windows side, because the price just sort of knocked the Mac out of the park. But for the hardware, I'm going to give Mac a point for design, just because I feel like it's a lot prettier, a lot more stable. Personally, I've had 0 Mac computers break and like 5 Windows computers break in my lifetime. And by break, I mean become completely unusable, because believe me, I'll use the crap out of something. I've owned probably like 8 Windows computers in my lifetime, and I think like 4 Mac computers. My Windows computers always broke down, but my Mac computers, they're just like in my closet, the ones that I'm not using. They still work. I just got something better, so I don't know how important that is to you. It's pretty important to me that the hardware stays together and still runs well. Although admittedly, Mac has admitted to slowing down older systems, like the actual software, but the hardware stays intact. So for hardware points, I'm gonna give design to Mac, as well as I'm probably gonna write down durability as well. And we already started talking about the software a little bit as well. I said that the bash terminal was more widely accepted. So I'm gonna write in here the terminal, because that actually is a big deal if you're a programmer, like if you're a professional software engineer. There's just a wide amount of applications which require a Unix terminal, and it's just really nice to have the native support. Also, you may be wondering why I haven't put Linux in here. That's mostly because I'm talking about like personal computers in here, and I don't think anyone should really put themselves through the heartache of having a Linux computer as like their home system, because a lot of things are just way harder. Like Linux was designed for programmers. So like if you're building a server, then of course the server should run Linux. That's like out of the question. But if it's like your own personal home computer, then should probably make your life a lot easier. Use Mac or Windows. I know that Linux does try to make some improvements as far as user interface goes, but that's not really its core competency, so I'm going to say it's more of a server software. Alright, and also something I wanted to compare in the software side of things is whether or not the system makes you do auto update, because auto update annoys me to no end, like the software system, like the operating system auto update. And Windows forces you to have that on. You can't turn it off now in Windows 10. And so this point goes to Mac because although they are pushy about it, you can like disable automatically updating your system. All right, and as far as like the whole proprietary coding language thing, like Apple has Swift, and I'm not even sure if there is a proprietary one for Windows. But my opinion is that you should always just use a language which is platform agnostic, meaning it doesn't care about what platform you're on. It builds to other platforms no matter what. And that's because I think that programming is already hard enough as it is. So why would you build an app where you have to build it twice? That's why I like using web technology, because browsers have already figured out how to render all that stuff. That's why I like Ionic so much, because it just leverages that, using a web view simulator inside of an app. And then, of course, I like using Angular and Angular Material for building websites which run on browsers, which have already figured out how to render all that stuff. So I'm not going to really put any points in any category for like how good their proprietary coding language is, because I don't think that matters. So no points for anybody. Oh, and also in the hardware category, I'm going to put GPU, because getting a good graphics card for your Mac computer is going to cost you thousands of dollars, whereas you can grab like $1,000 desktop PC from Amazon and just blow out of the water anything you got for your Mac, like the independent graphics card or whatever. Plus, that thing has terrible reviews. I wouldn't recommend getting that. If you need to do any sort of like heavy graphics processing, you're going to want a Windows computer, because like the hardware is just going to be way too expensive for the Mac, like way expensive. Remember how I said how the price of the hardware was justified by the price of the software? So like Mac software is often very free. The graphics card doesn't really need a lot of software, so there's no way that Mac can justify making it so expensive, just because it looks pretty. So if you need heavy graphics processing, whether that be making games or playing games, it'll work a lot better on a Windows computer. So I'm going to put that over here on the software side for Windows. We've just got games, because if you want to make or play games, it'll be way easier on a Windows computer, because just because of the sheer power in one of those things, graphics processing units. Now, don't get me wrong, you can make games on a Mac. I did it for quite a long time, but as soon as I got my Windows computer, then I realized like how much of a speed boost you get when you're using a Windows computer with a lot higher end graphics card. And then finally, I want to look at community. Well, at most of those big software companies that you see, like the Silicon Valley companies or any of like the Fortune 500, most of those guys are going to be using Mac hardware. And so under software, I'm going to put that there's a huge community behind the Mac operating system, just because of reasons like I already stated. It's more Unix based. It's like a great way to make a Unix environment more friendly, because like I was saying earlier, Unix isn't really super focused on the user interface, but then Mac just like took the core system like the Unix, and then they just made it super user friendly. And I don't know if you guys know this, but Windows is based on DOS, and DOS comes from like way back. If you do research on like the history of how Windows was made, like the original operating system, Bill Gates had a deal where he needed to quickly get like an operating system so that he could integrate it into IBM's hardware. And so what he did was he actually purchased an operating system, and he called it QDOS, for Quick and Dirty Operating System. So that should tell you something about like the underlying mechanisms of DOS, which Windows runs on. And since coders build software, which ties into like the existing software on that system, I personally would much prefer the underlying operating system to be a lot more elegant, and Unix is that way. And so with that, I think that kind of tips the scales in the Mac category for if you're a programmer. Unless you're specifically a games programmer, then I don't think it's really worth it. I would just fork out the extra price and then get to deal with a better underlying operating system, bigger community, no auto update, a nice terminal, hardware durability, and just amazing design all around. You could call me biased because I am programming on a Mac. I've been doing that for a while now. But I have used both, and I consciously looked at many of these factors before, and that's why I choose to use the Mac. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Do you like Mac or Windows for programming? There's no 100% right answer, but this is at least my choice. I like using the Mac. Be sure to leave a comment. Let me know down below what you think. Which one do you choose? And leave a like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.